So you're interested in purchasing the all-new upcoming 2027 Kia Telluride, but might also be considering the current all-new 2026 Hyundai Palisade. Well, in today's video, I'm going to compare the fully loaded Palisade Calligraphy to the fully loaded Telluride SX Prestige to help you understand what some of the key differences between either of these two mid-size three-row SUVs. And of course, this is the first initial information that we have coming out of the LA Auto Show on the 2027 Kia Telluride. So make sure you hit that subscribe button, follow along here on the channel for additional videos and content coming as we get closer to the on-sale date of that vehicle, which is going to be Q1 2026. But without further ado, let's not waste time and get right into it. So before we get too far into taking a look at some of the dimensional, the feature option differences between either of these two models, I do just quickly want to mention that the reveal at the LA Auto Show yesterday was quite interesting because it goes to show that assumptions are not always correct when talking about sister or sibling vehicles that ride on the same platform. Now, this is due to the fact that the Telluride will only use one of the two powertrains that the current new Palisade will offer because it is not going to be using the V6 engine of the Palisade, but instead a standard turbocharged four-cylinder, which is going to be the powertrain that is paired to the hybrid setup in the Palisade, but that is going to be a gas-only variant, similar to that of the Santa Fe Turbo or even the Sorento Turbo for that matter. So that was an interesting revelation. Again, goes to show that assumptions are not always correct with these two vehicles, and it likely has something to do as to where the vehicle will be built, which we'll touch on here a little bit later in today's video. But I first want to start out with some of the dimensional or size differences between either of these two models before moving on to the features, options, and packaging that are going to be different and similar between both these two. And then we'll of course wrap up with some pricing speculation on this vehicle and why I think one might be slightly less expensive than the other. Now, starting out with the dimensional differences between the Palisade and the Telluride, of course these two vehicles are riding on the exact same platform chassis, so they're going to share the identical wheelbase. However, there are going to be some very minor exterior and interior dimensional differences just due to the actual physical design, the bumpers, the interior seats and features and things like that. So I'll go ahead and have all the dimensions side by side up on the screen so you guys can pause the video, read through them for yourself. But overall, every single dimension is going to be well within 1 inch, if not, just a couple tenths of an inch. So there's really not going to be any difference, especially when you compare the fully loaded calligraphy to that of the SX Prestige, because these both have the dual panoramic sunroof as standard in that respective trim level, and then they both will offer the hybrid as an available upcharge within their lineup. Now, moving on to the standard features that you're going to find on both these two models before taking a look at the exclusive features between either of these, you're going to have their most advanced driver assistance technology, both within the Hyundai and the Kia side of things, which includes Highway Drive Assist 2, Lane Follow Assist 2, Smart Cruise Control with machine learning, blind spot detection with collision avoidance assist, and the list goes on. It basically has all of the advanced driver assistance that they currently offer within either of their lineups. You're gonna have LED headlights, taillights, interior and exterior lighting, front, rear, side parking sensors, surround view monitor system with the blind spot view monitor, which pops up in the digital dashboard, 12-inch full color heads-up display, dual 12.3-inch displays for the instrument cluster and the infotainment system, heated and ventilated front seats, heated, ventilated second row captain chairs that are also going to be fully power in nature, heated steering wheel, ergo motion driver seat. We have the power driver seat, leg extension function, memory driver seat, dual sunroofs, rain sense wipers, 14 speaker premium audio systems, although the Palisade is made by Bose and the Kia Telluride is the Meridian edition. So there is going to be some difference likely in how the sound and some of the features of the premium audio system. Manual second row sunshades, the 115 volt power outlet, however, they are located in different positions within the vehicle. The Palisade puts it just behind the front row seats on the back of the center console, where the Telluride is going to place the 115 volt outlet in the cargo area on the left hand side or the driver's side. So basically it's going to be only really accessible in the cargo area, maybe by third row occupants as well. So that is an interesting difference. You have remote smart park assist, power passenger seat, power folding mirrors, rear digital camera mirror, digital key 2.0, smart power liftgate, and the list goes on. There's a lot of similarities, but also some key differences between a fully loaded Palisade and a upcoming Telluride. Now, moving on to the Palisade features on the calligraphy over that of the Telluride, meaning that the Telluride, as of the information that I have as of creating this video, will not have these features available at all, or on very select variants of the Telluride. The auto-dimming exterior side mirrors are unknown at this time because it will have power folding mirrors. However, Kia didn't explicitly say in any of the press materials or specification guides that it will be auto-dimming in nature, so that is a little to be determined. I would not be surprised either way if it is auto-dimming or it isn't auto-dimming, but it probably is going to be, but as of this time, quite unknown. Similar to that is the dash camera technology with the front camera and the rear camera that will function while driving and or parked. There is a clip in the presentation of a in-car camera system. Doesn't explicitly say dash camera on the infotainment system, but it does have the camera icon and the actual tile to select it, and there's no mention of this in the specification guide either. So more on that later. Nappa leather seating surfaces will be found on the Palisade Calligraphy, where you have the synthetic leatherette materials on the Telluride. Likely not a big difference in terms of how the materials feel, but that is something to note is you get a genuine leather on the Palisade higher trims, and it's all synthetic on the Telluride. UVC sterilization compartment, not mentioned on any of the press materials either for the Telluride. And then a factory installed tow hitch will come on XRT Pro, Limited, and Calligraphy Palisades, where it is only factory installed on the X Pro gas model of the Telluride, not on the standard SX Prestige or the hybrid models, but it is available to be installed after the fact. So it'll be interesting to see what the differences are there in terms of mounting location of the trailering hitch and what, maybe plastic body trim pieces are needed on the Telluride. And in addition to this, the power sliding and adjustable third row seat is going to be found on the higher trims, Limited and Calligraphy of the Palisade, where there is no power third row seat on the Telluride at all that I was able to distinguish. They have basically made the third row seat fully manual in design across the entire lineup, which likely means there's no manual sliding adjustment for the seat either, so it's going to be fixed in place, where on the Palisade you can move the seat forward and back to allow for cargo room or additional passenger space. So that is an interesting thing for the Telluride, again, across all of their trim levels currently. Now moving to the Telluride features over that of the Palisade, there's actually a handful of items. The first big one is the power tilt telescopic steering column, which is going to be standard on SX Prestige and higher. So most of the fully loaded models are going to have the power tilt telescopic steering column, which integrates with the memory driver's seat. You have dual wireless charging pads, which there's only one available on the Palisade. You have a exclusive folding cargo luggage shelf with integrated cup holders. So you can kind of use this and, the different aspects of it while tailgating, camping, or doing anything like that. So that is a cool, nifty little feature. Auto close smart power liftgate is a thing that Kia has been doing on a lot of their vehicles equipped with the liftgate. However, Hyundai does not have that capability currently within their software. The sensors are likely in place, but Kia has implemented the smart closes tailgate, which I actually really did like on the Kia Carnival I tested. You have power retractable and flush mounted door handles versus the fixed in place on the Palisade. That is an interesting design because, of course, the Hyundai Ioniq 9 has these power retractable door handles. The Kia Telluride will have them. Personally, I think that's a little bit of a downgrade. I don't really care to have the power retractable door handles on an everyday SUV. But, time will tell as to how the durability, reliability, and overall function of those door handles are. You have LED fog lights, both projector and or reflector, depending on the trim level that you choose across the mid and higher grades. You have built-in streaming apps on the infotainment system from Disney+, I think Netflix, YouTube, and Karaoke app will be found with an active Kia Connect service plan. So that is a cool feature to have for the built-in infotainment. And you have an exclusive ground lighting feature on X Pro only, or the off-road version of the vehicle, that will illuminate the surroundings of the vehicle, similar to that of some other OEMs out there. So again, if you're camping, tailgating, going up to the vehicle at night, you can activate the exterior lighting and basically light the entire perimeter. So those are the features that I found on the Telluride. And then one other note I did want to mention before we get into some of the other pricing and things like that is that self-leveling rear suspension is a standard feature on every single Hyundai Palisade. So it doesn't matter if you get a base SE or a fully loaded calligraphy, anything in between, you will have the self-leveling rear suspension, which uses a system in the damper to actually pump up the shock and basically level the suspension when you're towing, hauling, doing any sort of heavy hauling inside the vehicle. where that is not a standard feature on the Telluride. You actually have to get an X-Line EX or higher, which is kind of just below the middle of the trim lineup or the trim walk. So basically, if you're looking at a base LX, S, or a standard EX Telluride, both on the gas and the hybrid, you will not be getting the self-leveling rear suspension. So if you do plan on towing with the vehicle, that is something to consider. And the hybrid, if you're wondering, starts in the base EX and goes up from there. So there's only one hybrid trim without self-leveling suspension, but there's a number of the gas, less expensive models that will not have it. Now moving on to exterior and interior color availability. Of course, we don't have the full and complete information for the Telluride quite yet, but they did showcase at least 4 exterior colors in their presentation and at the auto show itself. So we have a nice kind of silver champagne exterior. There is a matte brown, a dark green, and a standard kind of graphite dark gray metallic that was found in some of the video footage from their presentation. I'm sure they're gonna have a blue option, maybe a dark red or burgundy, similar to that of the last generation or outgoing Telluride. And there'll probably be, 6, 7, 8 exterior colors that you can choose from. Now, in terms of the Palisade exterior colors, you have your choice of Ecotronic Gray, Creamy White, Abyss Black, Typhoon Silver, Titan Charcoal, Classy Blue, Galaxy Maroon, Robust Emerald, Earthy Brass Matte, and Cast Iron Brown, which of course, as you know, if you've seen my videos, is currently on its way out and being discontinued within the Palisade lineup. So that will be a fairly limited availability color for this one model year. Now moving on to the interior colors, again, we don't know the official specifications and lists of this yet, but they did showcase at least 4 different interior colors depending on the trim and spec. They had a black interior, a gray two-tone, a brown two-tone, and a green two-tone option, which I think might be found on certain versions of the X line. So that was pretty cool to see all of that, and it shows that there's going to be a variety of interior and exterior colors and color combinations available in this Telluride, which I think Kia does a little bit better than that of Hyundai generally. Now moving on to the powertrains, which I'm sure, if you guys watched the beginning of this video or seen some of the coverage on the Telluride, this was the surprising, somewhat interesting choice by Kia to not follow exactly what the Palisade is doing. So with the Palisade, you have a standard 3.5 liter naturally aspirated V6 with an 8-speed automatic, your choice of front wheel drive or all wheel drive. This combination puts out 287 horsepower and 260 pound-feet of torque and provides up to 5,000 pounds of towing or trailering capacity with trailer brakes. That's the standard engine on the Palisade. And then you have your choice of upgrading to the 2.5 liter turbocharged 4-cylinder hybrid system with a 6-speed automatic dual electric motor setup, 329 horsepower, 339 pound-feet of torque, and up to 4,000 pounds of towing and trailering capacity. Now, with the Telluride, you still have your option of the 2.5 liter turbo hybrid, but the base standard gas engine is going to be the 2.5 liter turbo 4-cylinder by itself with an 8-speed automatic and 274 horsepower, 311 pound-feet of torque, and up to 5,000 pounds of trailering as well. So as you can see, the hybrid powertrains are shared between either of these two, which was expected, but a lot of people out there expected the Kia to use the V6 option as well, and that is not the case. They're going with the standard 2.5 liter turbo by itself, similar to what they use in the Kia Sorento or even the Hyundai Santa Fe. And I have to say, this is honestly, I don't think a bad thing for the vehicle. I think that 2.5 liter turbo is powerful enough and strong enough to move it around, and I think the low-end torque of the turbo engine is going to be obviously interesting to drive and feel and compare to that of the V6, but I think honestly is going to be maybe a little bit better than that of 3.5 liter that I've driven and of course expressed my concerns or opinions of here on the channel in the Palisade. So more on that to come, but that is going to be the big difference is the standard, no charge engine is going to be different between either of these two, where the optional hybrid is going to be the same. Now moving on to fuel economy, things like that, we don't have the confirmed information for the Telluride quite yet. We know the Palisade in its V6 will get, somewhere around the low 20 mpgs, right around that 30 mpg combined if you get the hybrid, depending on if you get front wheel drive or all wheel drive. Kia has confirmed that they are targeting 30 mpg combined for the versions of the hybrid, up to 35 mpg on the highway with, I'm assuming, maybe a front wheel drive iteration of the hybrid, and over 600 miles of total range out of their hybrid system, which is just like that of the Hyundai. So really going to be very comparable in those aspects. and really not going to be a big difference in fuel economy, but the big difference might come with the turbo 4-cylinder beating the V6. So we'll have to see if that is actually the case in the standard engine in the Telluride, if it gets a little bit better fuel economy than that of the V6 and the Palisade. Now, finally, to wrap up with some speculatory pricing information between these two vehicles. As we know, a Palisade Calligraphy all-wheel drive comes in at $58,160, including destination, and the hybrid Calligraphy will run $60,380 for a total difference of about $2,200 between the two engine choices. Now, in terms of the Telluride, there's a lot of trim levels that are right at the top of the line. So you have the X-Line SX Prestige, you have the standard SX Prestige, you have the X Pro models for the gas engine. So basically what my thoughts are on the Telluride in terms of its pricing is that on the low end of things in the trim lineup for a base LX or maybe an S trim level, it's going to be very similar to that of a Palisade, maybe beating it out, especially on the LX version, by just maybe $500 to $1,000, something along those lines, like that of the outgoing Telluride, which it did. So I'm expecting on the base side of things, maybe Kia to beat out the Palisade by just a little bit of money. Now, when we start to look at the mid-grades or the higher end of things, I think they're going to be very, very comparable between both the Palisade and the Telluride. Definitely getting to that $60,000 price point with a fully loaded Telluride hybrid SX Prestige, all the options, bells and whistles. You know, I definitely expect both of these two vehicles to crest that $60,000 price point. Now, whether or not the Telluride, maybe in a standard SX Prestige hybrid, is going to come in just under $60,000, we're going to have to see. Obviously, this vehicle being built in Georgia is going to have an impact in terms of them not being subject to the full amount of the tariffs that are currently in place, which could help them undercut the Hyundai Palisade ultimately, just due to where the final assembly location is. But nonetheless, I expect them to be very, very similar in terms of their current pricing, which is going to be, you know, right around that low $40,000 price point, all the way up to about $60,000, including destination, all-wheel drive, things like that. But ultimately, we will have to see how that rolls out. Now, some of the interesting aspects of the Telluride is that a base hybrid EX is the lowest trim level in the Telluride, is going to have more features and equipment than that of a base SEL hybrid Palisade. So you're going to get things like heated and ventilated front seats on every single Telluride hybrid, where you have to go up to a SEL Premium on the Palisade to get heated and ventilated front seats, where that base, you know, entry-level hybrid price point does not get all of those features. So basically, with that being said, I think the Palisade hybrid standard SEL might actually undercut the Kia Telluride EX hybrid, or its base hybrid powertrain, by just a little bit. But again, all of this is a little bit speculatory at this point. Pricing should be announced over the coming like 2 months or so as we get closer to the on-sale date of Q1 2026. So we're really not that far away from these vehicles starting production and ultimately, you know, going through the quality process holds and then being transported to dealerships across the country. And I think once these vehicles roll out, it'll ultimately be very interesting to see what the take rate is between gas and hybrid, what the, you know, allocations like, ultimately what pricing is like between Palisade and hybrid, or Telluride, excuse me, because, you know, they're both going to be very, very competitive options with the midsize 3-row segment, offering most of the same features and options. But obviously, if you like the styling of the Telluride, that is going to be maybe why you might be swayed one way or the other. If you like some of maybe the exclusive premium features and amenities on the Palisade, that could sway you this direction. And yeah, ultimately, I think it'll just be interesting to see. So hopefully I can get invited to the first drive event for the Kia Telluride sometime, I assume, earlier next year. Kia, if you're watching, feel free to invite me out. I would love to cover the Telluride in a little bit more detail, get first hands-on impressions and looks, because the Palisade has done very, very well on the channel, and I appreciate you guys watching and supporting these videos. But anyways, I'm gonna quit rambling. Let me know your thoughts on either the Palisade or the Telluride down in the comment section below, what you think of that standard engine difference between either of these two, what you think pricing might be, and ultimately things like that. But if you guys enjoyed this video and or found it helpful, hit that like button, subscribe, and with all being said, I hope to see you guys in the next one.